Hey guys, it's Gretchen from Gretchen's Bakery here with an in-depth look at how to make a 3-tiered cake. I get so many questions about building tiered cakes that I thought it deserved another go since I did make a tutorial last year for this same topic, and click here if you want to go check that one out. But this time I feel that I will address the most asked questions, and hopefully this will be a better than ever tutorial for you. You can skip forward here to any topic that you're curious about. If you do not want to watch the entire tutorial, just click the screen here for whatever topic you'd like to skip to. First of all, the cake question. Can I use blank cake recipe for a tiered stacked cake? And my answer is you can use just about any cake recipe you like as long as you build the cake properly. We are in an age where we're no longer stuck with plain white cake for a wedding cake, so whatever the bride wants, the bride gets. Today I will be using a combination of my golden vanilla butter cake and chocolate buttermilk cake. So don't forget, all the recipes plus tons more information is on the blog at gretchensbakery.com, so click here or click the link below the video to go grab the recipes and more information. I am making a 10-inch plus a 7-inch plus a 5-inch tiered cake because typically you will have 2 to 3 inches in graduation from one cake tier to the next as you graduate up to the top. And this cake here that I'm making will serve approximately 60 people, and that does not include the top tier because that is the anniversary tier that the bride and groom will save and celebrate 1 year after their wedding. And you may notice that my servings per tier are slightly less than the Wilton Guide to Cake Cutting, but I have been using this Gretchen's Bakery Guide for my entire 20 years making wedding cakes, and I have never run out of cake. Use whatever guide you feel more comfortable with, or ask your caterer or whoever is cutting and serving your cake to get on the same page with you as far as expected servings. The next question I get a lot is how do I convert the recipe to make larger cakes? And I'm not really a cups volume gal when it comes to making larger cakes than the standard recipe yields. So follow this guide here for how to calculate how much batter you're going to need. Most standard recipes are calculated to make 2 8-inch cake layers. So for 2 10-inch layers, you will need 1.5 times the recipe. The 7-inch and the 5-inch layers will then be another 1.5 times the recipe. So in total, you will be making your cake recipe 3 times. If you just fill the cake pans halfway full, then you can be sure you're going to get cake layers that rise nicely to the top of a 2-inch height cake pan. I do have more information on the written blog post as usual for other sized cake pans, so be sure to click through and read the entire blog post, please. Okay, so now that we have our cake dilemma solved, what else do you need? Cardboard circles that are the same exact diameter as the cake tiers you are using, as well as parchment paper circles that are cut to the same size as the middle tier and the top tier. This will be more clear later when I show you how to use them and why. A pastry bag and whatever tips you need to decorate your final cake. Some people like to smooth ice their cakes with a bench scraper for perfectly even sides every time, or an offset spatula will do as well. Some sort of turn stand for decorating the cake will make your life so much easier, and I will link to everything below as well as in the written post. And last, dowel rods. I use wooden dowels in each tier and never plastic ones or the kind that go through the entire cake. It's just my preference to do it this way. Now, here is the first tip and trick to making stunning cakes with minimal skills and minimal time. It is to just buy pre-made fondant flowers. I am teaming up with fondantflowers.com for this tutorial, and I have to say they do make beautiful flowers at very affordable prices. Even when I owned my bakery, my motto was, I just cannot be all things to all people. There are plenty of people who specialize in making beautiful fondant flowers like the ones you see here, so why not let them help you? This way you can concentrate on the hundreds of other things that you will have to do to pull off a fabulous wedding cake. Of course, if you do make your own fondant flowers, more power to you, but those of you who do, you know how much time they take. So this is really a great way to save time, save your energy, and make a gorgeous cake with minimal skills. Now, in addition to the cake recipe, you also need your filling and icing recipes. I am using buttercream throughout, but of course the possibilities are endless and you are not limited just because it's a tiered cake. So here I will be using 2 recipes of Swiss buttercream for the crumb coat and the final icing. I also have an additional recipe of buttercream here for the filling, but I have made a quick raspberry puree to add to the filling buttercream for a nice variation and great taste. Simply add the cooled puree to the buttercream and give it a spin on low to incorporate. The next thing that you'll want to do is trim each cake layer to the exact same size for all the tiers. It is your option whether you want to do 2 layers of cake or 3, or some people do 4 layers of cake. Really, that is your option. Just make sure you're trimming them all to exactly the same size. I do use a ruler to make sure that I'm doing just that. This will give your final iced tiered cake the perfect symmetry and look that you want for a stacked cake. And I always do say, what you start with is what you'll end with, so be sure to follow that through from beginning to end. Now we can get to filling and crumb coating our cakes. For this step, I just use the pastry bag with the coupler inserted and no tip. And I do have a bowl here that is basically used for the crummy buttercream, so that I don't add that back to the main bowl of buttercream. You're going to want to keep the crumbs as far away from the final icing as possible. Each cake is built on the cardboard that is the same size as the cake, and the cardboard stays on throughout the entire process, even upon stacking the cakes. As you are filling the cake, be mindful of the amount that you're using for each layer. This way, once the cake is cut, you'll have exactly the same filling proportion to the cake layers. It's just a nicer, cleaner look when all the layers are perfectly even. The crumb coat is rather thin since it is just a crumb coat, and this is a very important step to getting a clean looking final result. Not only do we trap the crumbs in the first layer, but pay close attention that the sides and the top of the cake are perfectly level and even. What you start with is what you end with. Now, I do use another cardboard that is slightly larger than the cake that I just iced, just to transport it back and forth from the refrigerator in between the tiers. Repeat the process with the next 2 tiers, and notice that I am using the excess crumb-coated icing for the next cake. This ensures that I don't end up with a giant bowl of crummy icing. Also take note that I'm icing the crumb coat directly flush with the edge of the cardboard. After all, the cardboard is 100% perfectly shaped, whereas my cake may not be, so it is a perfect guide. Sometimes I have trouble getting the smallest tier to cooperate since it is so small and it's lighter compared to the others, and it just wants to slip and slide all around my turn stand, so I do use a damp towel here to keep it in place. Okay, now for the final icing of the cakes. You see I am back to the first tier that I've crumb coated, and I have been spinning my buttercream on low speed for about 10 minutes to get the air bubbles out and to make it silky smooth. Now, since I just final iced my bottom tier, I have to place it onto the serving platter. One thing that I will stress is to make sure that your serving platter fits in the refrigerator before you start building your cake. You don't want to be stuck with a cake that won't fit back into the refrigerator. I do like to decorate each tier separately before it is stacked. And again, this is just my preference. There is no rule that you have to do it that way. I am doing a triple Swiss dot on the base tier with a number 2 Atico tip. At this point, I will also prep my tier for the next cake to go on top. I am measuring it loosely with that parchment paper circle just to give me an idea of where to place the dowels, but you can use the cake pan that is the same size to give you a better outline. I will mark the dowel with a marker or just use the icing as a guide as to where to cut, and be sure to cut all the dowels separately so that they are exactly the right height as the cake. I typically use 5 dowels in each tier, 1 in the center and then 4 around at the edge of where the next cake will sit. For cakes that are much larger than the one that I'm making here, I may add a few more dowels for added support. You can really use your judgment as to how many you want to use. Here is where that parchment paper circle comes into play. This is to create a barrier between the bottom cake and the next cake, so when the servers are disassembling the cake for serving, they're not going to pull off a giant chunk of the buttercream. This way it leaves the bottom cake intact, and it's much nicer than with gobs of buttercream missing. Repeat the final icing procedures and the decorating of each tier as well, and be sure to keep the other tiers in the refrigerator in between working on the one that you're working on. I am doing a single Swiss dot on this middle tier and then prepping it with the dowels for fitting the 5-inch cake topper on top of this one. Don't forget the parchment paper liner. Into the refrigerator to chill while we go on to the next tier. This one I am doing just a delicate cascade of dots to tie in the whole Swiss dot theme. After the icing and decorating process, I make sure that all the tiers have chilled in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes before stacking. I will use a very light buttercream to act as the glue for each tier, and this goes directly on top of the parchment paper liner. Remember, the cardboard is still under each cake tier. Place it as centered as possible, and then repeat the process until you've finished with your last tiers. And yay, you did it! You just built a 3-tiered wedding cake. Now for the best part of all, and that would be putting on the borders and then the fondant flowers. I am using a number 8 Atico tip for the borders, and by the way, everything I used today is found in my Gretchen's Bakery Essentials Cake Decorating Kit, so click the link below if you want to go check that out as well. Now just have some fun decorating with your beautiful fondant flowers from fondantflowers.com, and well, you have just made yourself a beautiful, sturdy, 3-tiered cake with minimal skills, minimal tools, minimal time, and money. Well, I sure do hope you liked this video tutorial, and if so, please don't forget to give me a like. I would like to thank my patrons over on Patreon as well as my amazing supporters in PayPal. Without you all helping me monthly by supporting Gretchen's Bakery, I would never have been able to make a video like this possible. If you think that you can pledge to help me for as little as $1 a month, please click the link here to check it out. I do appreciate all the support simply by watching my videos. I know that there are so many other baking YouTubers you can be watching, and the fact that you're coming here to Gretchen's Bakery means the world. So please share me with anyone you think may enjoy my videos, and most importantly, visit me on the blog at gretchensbakery.com. And oh yeah, don't forget to click the link here to see how to cut this cake. Alright guys, thank you so much again for watching, and I'll hope to see you again soon.